Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our first segment of the day, as always, is Thursday's White House press briefing, where Karine Jean-Pierre is questioned on gun control once again. Now, what you see on your screen here is Wednesday's White House press briefing that we covered in yesterday's episode, where she was questioned on gun control, and the question came in the form of, hey, here's conservative and Republicans debate, basically saying there's so many firearms already out there in the United States, it's not really feasible to put in a semi-automatic weapons ban or an assault weapons ban, of which they're calling it. It's not realistic. We're going to hear her response. And the reason why I want to play this again is it plays into the question that we're going to hear from Thursday's White House press briefing, or in other words, yesterday. And then hearing her response is completely insane. So let's hear this one from Wednesday, and then we'll jump into Thursday's. Let's go ahead and roll it.
I want to ask you a question about guns and get your response to some of the arguments that Republicans are making now about the push to ban semi-automatic weapons. One of the things they're saying is that there are 25 million of these devices out there in circulation in the homes of millions of Americans, and therefore you can't ban them. What's the president's response to that?
That's unacceptable. That's our response. It's unacceptable that Republicans are saying that there's nothing that we can do.
Hold on to that, okay?
Our schools, our churches, our places of worships have now become deadly places for many Americans who have lost their lives just this past year. So I asked Republicans, what are you going to say to the families in Nashville at this elementary school who lost their loved ones? 3 kids, 3 adults, 3 9-year-olds. Is that what they're going to say to them, that there's nothing else that we can do? You're going to say that to the Uvalde families, the parents? There's nothing else that we can do? You're going to say that to the people in Buffalo, in that grocery store on a Saturday, doing what many Americans do on a Saturday across the country, that there's nothing that we're going to do? Republicans in Congress need to show some courage. And if they had courage, they would be introducing legislation on on banning assault weapons today. That's what they would be doing today. And we know.
Okay, so you heard that, right? She's basically saying, well, there's nothing we can do in terms of what Republicans are saying, which isn't the truth. And we covered that on yesterday's episode, where I literally said, well, we don't have to remove semi-automatic firearms from the hands of law-abiding citizens that have the right to bear arms. We don't need to do that. We could just put armed guards in schools all across the United States. And that is literally what's being proposed here. So here's the question from Thursday's White House press briefing, meaning yesterday, where this question is being proposed. Listen to her response here, because she just got done grandstanding, saying, is that what you're going to tell the victims, that you don't have anything, that you have nothing proposed, that we got nothing? So here's her response to all this.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Karine. So earlier you mentioned your opening statements, Republicans not taking any action when it comes to gun violence. Well, I know the president talked to Senator Blackburn earlier this week. We got an email today saying that Senator Blackburn's introducing the Safe School Act with the other Tennessee senator. Bill establishes a $900 million grant program to allow both public and private schools to train and hire veterans and former law enforcement officers to protect schools.
Man, where did we hear that idea from? Probably about 48 hours ago or 24 hours ago. Oh, we heard it here on the Bald Brad Show. That was literally the idea that I proposed, of saying, rather than throwing billions of dollars, hundreds of billion dollars around the globe to all these other nations, why don't we figure our ish out here first, hire some armed guards for every school and every school district, and we'll at least be somewhat okay. This is what's being proposed here, but we were just told that Republicans don't have any ideas. They don't know what to do. We should just ban assault weapons. Listen to her response, you guys.
Administration have a stance on that?
I'm going to be very clear here. The president has said over and over again, look, let me even step back a little bit further. We have done 24 executive orders in the past 2 years. This president has, to do everything that he can to protect communities and our kids. And as we know, we can't do it alone. The president is limited on this, so we need Congress to act. And the things that we know are very popular, that it will actually assist or help prevent gun violence, is one of them is banning assault weapons, right? That we know for a fact. When it was done in 1994, for those 10 years, gun violence went down. And when that law sunset, it rose back up again. So we know.
Folks, she's not answering the question. It we'll continue here in just one moment. They're so tunnel visioned on wanting, I should say, not just tunnel vision, but hell-bent on removing your firearms. It is insane. Completely just not even listening to the question about offering solutions other than taking law-abiding citizens' firearms through a banning policy that's not going to solve the issue at all, because you're going to still have criminals that are going to commit crimes, whether that's obtaining a firearm illegally or not, still going to go commit that crime. So now you got a bunch of people that want to protect themselves and not able to protect themselves anymore because you just screwed them over, but you benefited the criminals. But they are so hell-bent on removing your firearms and literally going door to door to do so. It is insane. But let her continue here, and the reporter actually catches on that she doesn't answer the question.
What works, and that's why we've been calling. The president has been calling for the assault weapons ban, and this is something that Republicans won't move on. And not just that, there's other common sense gun laws reform, requiring background checks on all gun sales, requiring safe storage of guns, eliminating immunity for gun manufacturers who knowingly put weapons of war on the streets. These are weapons of war. Weapons of war, they should not be in our community.
There's already background checks. For anybody that's purchased a firearm, there's already background checks. A lot of people, I don't know about different states as far as what the regulation is, but a lot of states, you have to have this stuff locked up. If you're traveling with it, you have to have it locked up. I know in the state of California, hell, we have to have locks on everything. You got to have a lock on the gun. You got to have a lock on the bag. You got to have a lock on your safe. I mean, the thing is triple locked. So by the time you're getting robbed, you're going to get your ass kicked because the thing's locked up. You're not going to be able to use it. That's for another video. But to give these weapons of war and put them on the streets, I mean, what does that even mean? If you legally obtain the firearm through a background check, then yeah, maybe it'll wind up on the street, but the vast majority of people just have it at home to protect themselves or go hunting with, even though that's not what the Second Amendment's proposed or used for, is for hunting. It's not what it is there for, but I know it's what Democrats are going to push, which, by the way, again, we talk about all the nonsense in my book, Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. They have this indoctrination, this ideology that is crippling our country from the inside out, and you're seeing it in real time right here, literally wanting to shave and remove away your Second Amendment right. Let her continue here because, like I said, the reporter's going to catch her in which she didn't answer his question, so he proposes it once again.
They should not be in our schools. They should not be in streets. So that's what we're calling for. We're calling for actual real solutions here, real solutions that we actually know work and majority of Americans support.
But is more funding for school security guards a solution that you would consider?
Look, the president signed the Safer Communities Act, right? This summer. It was a bipartisan piece of legislation. And even when we celebrated signing that, when the president...
The answer is yes. The answer is yes, that you should support it. But they're so hell-bent on removing semi-automatic firearms, going door to door and confiscating them, that they're completely dodging the question. This is insane. They want to chisel away at your Second Amendment right.
President celebrated signing that into law. He actually said we need to build on that and do more. So yes, we need to do more, but we know what needs to happen. Banning assault weapons is one of the clearest ways. That's what the data shows us, that we can get weapons of war off the streets, and that's what we're asking for. Go ahead, Ariel.
You're not getting them off the streets, though. This is what they're completely missing, and I don't know if it's intentional or they're just that dumb. You think criminals are just going to just readily stand in line and hand over their firearms, whether that's an actual ban or a gun buyback program? You think they're just going to sit there lined up, ready to go? It's the law-abiding citizens, the ones that follow the law, that are probably going to do that. And honestly, I hope that people don't. I hope they don't sit there and turn in their firearms. Bury it in the dirt or something so the government doesn't know about it. I mean, it is insane, like I said in yesterday's episode, that you have the federal government openly saying they want to sit there and confiscate your firearms. I mean, like I said, the founders are rolling in their graves over this stuff, and they're just doing it nonchalantly, like it's not a big deal. Yeah, we want to take your guns. Oh yeah, folks, if you just had to guess, if the government takes your firearms, what do you think is going to happen to the rest of your rights? Because if you don't have that Second Amendment right, how are you going to protect and make sure that you have those other rights? Or else the government will just chisel away and remove those as well because you don't have anything to defend yourself with? You're at the beginnings of basically some scary stuff here with the government just naturally talking about this stuff. But something was proposed, which you just saw in yesterday's episode. She said that Republicans didn't have any solutions, so they proposed a pretty damn good solution, by the way, a way better solution than removing one of your rights that have been enshrined in the Constitution, a God-given right of just saying, hey, why don't we just put armed guards, veterans, guys that need jobs, we can support our vets. They'll gladly stand there and protect our children all day, and they get paid for it. Why don't we do that instead of doing this other thing, which doesn't actually solve the problem? And I would also like to point out, armed guards don't actually solve the problem either. Somebody could still come on campus and shoot up the place, but at least you got somebody there that's shooting back and not waiting 14 plus minutes for cops to arrive. And I'm not hounding the cops for what they did in Nashville. They did a phenomenal job, but 14 minutes is a long time. At least you got somebody there that can act within seconds and at least pin the guy down or girl down or whatever the hell they're going to be. Because now you got trans people coming in and shooting up schools everywhere. So, let me know. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Would you let the government show up at your doorstep and remove your guns? Would you turn them in if there was a gun buyback, or if there was a program saying, hey, we're banning all semi-automatic firearms, you guys sit there and turn your weapons in? Would you guys actually do it? Maybe don't write that in the comment section, because if it happens, they'll probably track you. But you know what I mean. Just support what the president's doing. Just leave us a comment down below. The integration and you interact with the channel is what YouTube's looking for, because Lord knows they're shadow banning us. Well, moving into our next segment of the day, we got the man, the myth, the legend, Peter Doocy of Fox News, asking a really interesting question that nobody in the room's taken serious. And I'm not so sure Peter Doocy's actually taking it seriously either. It's fun nonetheless, but we'll actually talk about it because I think there's some serious implications with this whole artificial intelligence that's being pushed out through Bing AI. You have ChatGPT 4 that's already out, that's actually exponentially growing and getting smarter. So we'll talk about that after the clip, but here's the clip with Peter Doocy and Karine Jean-Pierre.
Thank you. On artificial intelligence, 1,000 of the world's smartest people are saying that AI can pose profound risks to society and humanity. They want you guys to regulate it. Will you?
You're talking about the letter that was released yesterday. So, look, it highlights a number of challenges addressed directly in the administration's blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights, which was released last October, as I'm sure you've been following, Peter. It includes principles and practices AI creators can use to ensure protections related to safety, civil rights, civil liberties, are integrated into AI systems from start to finish. Right now, there's a comprehensive process that is underway to ensure a cohesive federal government approach to AI-related risk and opportunities, including how to ensure that AI innovation and deployment proceeds with appropriate prudence and safety foremost in mind. And so we're going to, I don't have anything to announce at this point, at this time, but there is a comprehensive process in place.
So announcements aside, there is now there's an expert from the Machine Intelligence Research Institute who says that if there is not an indefinite pause on AI development, this is a quote, literally everyone on Earth will die.
People are literally laughing. If you're on audio, they're laughing.
Would you agree that does not sound good?
Your delivery, Peter, is quite something.
It sounds crazy, but is it?
All I can say is that there's a comprehensive process in place. We put out a blueprint back in October, as you know. I don't have anything to share. We have seen the letter. We understand what their concerns are. Again, a comprehensive process. We'll let that flow.
So is President Biden worried that artificial intelligence could become self-aware?
Look, there's a comprehensive process. We are taking this very seriously. We put our blueprint out back in October. I just don't want to get ahead of our findings and what that's going to look like. But it is a cohesive federal government approach to AI-related risks, as you just laid out in a very dramatic way. But clearly,
is there anything more dramatic?
I mean, you just read it.
Literally everyone on Earth will die.
Pretty dramatic. Pretty dramatic. We're going to move on. But thank you, Peter.
So everybody's laughing about it. And again, the way that Peter proposed it, I couldn't tell if he was even taking it serious himself, or because this administration's such a clown show that he proposed it in a way that was kind of theatrical and comical, because everything else that she basically spews out of her mouth is the exact same thing. Or he's just saying, why even bother asking a serious question, because he's not going to get an answer anyway, so he might as well have some fun with it. I mean, I don't know how to take this one. How do you guys take that? Do you think he's just joking around? Do you think he's serious? Do you think he's playing into the clown show that's going on and the theatrics of this administration? And I would also like to point out, whenever she says, oh, well, we're taking this serious, think the complete opposite, you guys. They say that about everything. I mean, they've been saying that you're taking illegal immigration seriously for literally, I don't know, years at this point, and he's still shattering records. They don't have solutions for anything. So this whole AI thing that Peter Ducey's talking to actually comes from basically a couple months ago in January, where artificial intelligence systems might make lives exponentially easier, which a lot of people are using this chat GPT to do. They could also have a sinister side effect, making us go extinct. So these are the top people in AI talking about this stuff. Yeah, it can make our lives easier by writing essays, answering our questions, doing simple searches, finding studies, and doing those types of things, finding our recipes for cooking. Yes, that stuff is very helpful. But on the other end of it, it could be an existential threat to humanity that needs to be regulated like nuclear weapons if we are to survive. Quote, with superhuman AI, there is a particular risk that is of different sorts of class, which is it could kill everyone. That comes from Michael Cohen. No, not Trump's lawyer. This is a doctoral student of Oxford University, and this was explained to the Times of London. Meanwhile, his colleague, Michael Osborne, no, not Osborne from Spider-Man, folks, who teaches machine learning at the UK university, forecasts that advanced AI could pose just as much risk to us as we have posed to other species. The dodo is one example. So the scientists are basically forecasting this global concerns. Part of it has to do with the buzz over ChatGPT, which is the cutting edge of a new helper bot by the Elon Musk-backed tech firm OpenAI. And Elon Musk is kind of the one, and Steve Wozniak, one of the co-founders of Apple, saying, hey, we need to put a pause in this thing because we don't really know what we're doing here. And this thing is getting smarter and smarter as time goes on. So I'm not sure if the tech industry is going to follow along here and actually put a pause on this. I know ChatGPT was down for a couple days because I have ChatGPT along with the beta of Bing AI. So I think this is dangerous, and that's what Musk said. ChatGPT is scary good. We're not far from dangerously strong AI. And the idea of this, since Bing is connected to the internet, is Bing going rogue, and these AI systems going rogue, locking you out of your bank accounts, potentially triggering some sort of weaponry going off. I mean, there is so much potential of actual threats and this thing going south that is head spinning. I understand there's a lot of good, but again, with a lot of good also comes a lot of bad, and we got to figure this out because this is something we've never encountered as a species before, and it could wipe us out. What do you guys think is going to happen with AI? Let me know in the comment section below. Guys, I do read your comments. I'm being serious. I don't just ask for you to comment on it because it helps with integration and interaction. Of course, that's there. But I do swipe on my phone. I just sit there and I read all of them. There's so many now with so many videos. It's tough for me to comment on each one. Sometimes I like to leave a heart, but even if I don't heart it, I 100% read every single comment you guys post. Well, moving into our next story of the day, we got another clip here of Alejandro Mayorkas being grilled. Now, this is insane because this is a different clip from what we saw in the past couple episodes that we covered, because the border wall is not being built, but at the same time, DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is saying that the border's secure. We've seen clips like that all over the place. The border's fine. He's just calling it a challenge. Nothing to see here. And so he gets ripped a new one here by one of the senators or House committee members here and ripping him a new one. Let's go ahead and see it.
In here. In 1996, we passed the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Response Act of 1996, as well as the Secure Offense Act of 2006, in part to authorize the construction of barriers along the southern border. You're aware of that, correct?
I am.
I'll note that was both under Democrat and Republican administrations. In 2021, we funded more border infrastructure. You're aware of that?
Yes.
And I'm sure this is basic constitutional, but as the Article 1 branch, our job is to make the law. Your job is to execute the law. Is that correct?
Oh, most certainly. And as a matter of fact, I've been very proud
And yet
to,
you canceled
enforce
contracts
the
for
law.
construction.
Almost certainly, I've actually been executing it since I've been here. No, you haven't, man. And that's one of my biggest qualms and one of the reasons why I think that Joe Biden should be impeached, and I think this guy should resign as well or be fired, because they're not doing their job. They're not executing the laws that are on the books. They're not even doing one of their main jobs as the executive branch of executing the laws that are on the books, but furthermore, protecting the American people. from a foreign adversary or some sort of terrorist as well, which we know there has been terrorists. Hell, we know at least of 100 that have come across the border, and that doesn't include the known gotaways of where they slip through the cracks, meaning that we can have actual sleeper cells here concocting some sort of major dirty bomb or crime or another 9/11 scenario. I'm not saying necessarily flying planes, but blowing up a van somewhere else, which we saw also, or was it the early 2000s or the late 90s under the World Trade Center in the basement. So there could be sleeper cells here planning something because this guy doesn't want to do his job. Some of us could be harmed here. We don't know. But hey, he's executing the laws. Well, actually, I've been doing it this entire time. No, you haven't.
Of the border wall, is that true? You've canceled contracts for building the
Congressman,
border wall?
I can assure you that we will comply with all our legal obligations.
Right now, we're paying for border wall to be stored instead of built. Is that correct?
We are, I have approved, as I testified earlier.
Is that correct? Yes or no?
Approximately 129
Is-
gates and gaps. And so that project,
Yes
that
or
work is
no?
underway.
Are we paying for border wall to be stored
We are indeed.
instead of built? Thank you. And that include tech.
Was that so hard, man, to just sit there and answer the question so the guy can move on and get more questions in? Yes, you're paying to store the border wall. Your taxpayer dollars are paying to not build it, but store it. Let that one sink in, just wasting money. But they're so efficient, you guys. They do everything right. Just keep throwing money at something that's not going to solve the problem. And by not solving the problem, I mean just letting it lay there in the desert. Solving the problem would be building it, which is what the border agents want. That's what they need, which he'll get to in just one moment.
Texas, who was trying to buy it to build it themselves, you stopped Texas from buying border wall.
Congressman, I'm not familiar with that. I'll certainly look into that and touch base with you in the days following.
You keep talking.
That's a lie, by the way. They are familiar with that. And furthermore, they're so familiar with it where I don't remember if it's Arizona or Texas. We had basically we had the agency come down and say, hey, you know what? We'll actually build the border wall. You've had Doug Ducey and Greg Abbott, again, of Texas and Arizona, say they haven't shown up ever since. They haven't completed the border wall, of which they said they were going to do. So I can't remember which state it was, but they basically started taking shipping containers on federal lands and just starting to build their own border wall with it just to stop the inflow of it happening. And then you had the federal government come in and say, well, you can't do this. And they're like, well, why not? They go, well, one, it's federal lands, your state. And second, it's an environmental concern. Yeah, the EPA came in and was like, you got to take this down. This is ruining the environment. You're in the middle of a desert. What do you mean ruining the environment? It's so insane. They're doing everything they can, you guys, to have a massive influx of illegal aliens here. And you got this guy, this knucklehead, sitting there exacerbating the issue, along with the other knucklehead that's running the show, supposedly, called Joe Biden. And then the borders are Kamala Harris, who hasn't done literally anything at the border, nothing at all other than fly over the border and pass out cookies. Y'all remember that one? Insane.
About force multipliers as well. When I talk to the boots on the ground, they talk about the border infrastructure, specifically the wall,
There you
the
go.
roads that go along with it, the chopping down the cocaine, the technology that's involved, all being one of the most effective force multipliers in the sense that you can have 2 or 3 people patrol a few miles of border as opposed to dozens.
Whoa. Hold on, man. You're going way too fast here. I was told by every Democrat that almost ever was, and on the progressive left, that walls don't work. I was told that fences don't work, walls don't work, even though Nancy Pelosi, the very person that was one of which said that, put entire walls and fences around the Capitol after January 6th. There's walls around the White House. There's walls around her house, even though that got broken into. That's a conversation for another video. But you guys understand what I'm saying. It's amazing how you literally have boots on the ground saying, yeah, we need the wall. Yeah, the wall is extremely helpful. The roads down there are extremely helpful as well. We don't need that many border agents if we got a wall. Yeah, we could patrol the whole thing just with a view, which cut down the cost. We're spending over $150 billion a year on illegal immigration. You know what kind of wall you could build for $150 billion? That's per year, you guys. It's not like a decade's worth of numbers. $150 billion minimum per year because of illegal immigration. You could build a fantastic border wall, have state-of-the-art technology down there, and give the border agents a massive pay increase because of the damn job they're having to do down there. Thank God we got them. We don't got enough of them. We need more. But it's amazing here. You have this guy telling truth, saying, hey, this is what boots are on the ground saying, and you're going to have Alejandro Mayorkas, knucklehead there, completely disregard the whole thing.
It's pretty significant that we do this, yet Biden's border budget request takes the money that we've already allocated and moves it to other directions. Isn't that correct?
I'm confused by your question, Congressman. And
The
I can
border
assure
that
you
you're
This guy's confused by the question. Sorry about the audio, folks. It keeps going up and down. I'm trying to take care of it for you, so that's why I'm looking at my other screen here. How are you confused by the question? I swear I don't know who's worse, him or Karine Jean-Pierre. The question wasn't hard. The money that was allocated for the border wall, you're taking that money and putting it at other places other than actually building the border wall. It's yes or no. That is happening or it isn't happening, but somehow this guy's confused. By the way, supposedly he was a lawyer. Still, if you're going to law school, I mean, basically that's a hit on you because clearly law school is easier than what it used to be if this guy sat there got a law degree.
You're here to propose takes money that we've already allocated for the border wall and moves it to other objectives. Isn't that correct?
We are seeking to invest in people.
It's a yes or no question.
Congressman,
We-
we are
we-
seeking
we're-
to invest in
It's not
people
a
and
either
technology.
or, people or border infrastructure.
No, that's why I'm saying.
You're taking what we've already authorized, what we've already appropriated for border wall construction, and you're wanting to rescind that and use it for other purposes. Isn't that correct?
Congressman, we will comply with our legal obligations for fiscal year 2023.
That's a very well-worded way to get around. You find these loopholes, and you're missing the objective, the overall objective of securing the border by finding these little legal loopholes to get out of things. For example, the Secure Fence Act of 2006.
I know I keep pausing, but that's a really important comment that he made, was that they keep finding loopholes on not how to secure the border, which is completely contradictory what DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas there, the bald-headed guy, keeps saying is, well, the border is secure. We're doing everything we possibly can. It's our number one issue. We lose and sleep over it. Joe Biden cares so much about all this stuff, even though when he went to the border, air quotes for those that are listening, and spent 3 hours there and didn't actually see any illegal immigrants, of which they had thousands of them in the street the day before he got there. Well, it turns out he just miraculously cleared everybody out before Joe Biden got there. Literally, you had Karine Jean-Pierre sitting on the podium and saying, well, it's just happenstance. It just kind of happened that way. Yeah, they just cleared out themselves before Joe Biden showed up. Mm-hmm.
Defines what operational control is as the prevention of all unlawful entries into the United States, including entries by terrorists and other unlawful aliens, instruments of terrorism, narcotics, and other contraband. To be clear, that's the only definition that exists legally of operational control. Isn't that correct?
I believe that is the statutory definition under the Secure Fence Act of
And
2006.
I understand a point that you've made that it does say all, and as long as it says all, you can never perfectly achieve operational control. You've made that point. But have illegal entries increased or decreased since you became secretary?
There's no question. First of all,
they increased or decreased?
You are absolutely correct that under the Secure Fence Act definition, no administration has achieved operational control. It speaks of preventing all unlawful entries. That
Right.
means one
But your
got
job
away.
should be to be moving us in the proper direction. Yet
Oh,
we
and
have
we are
more
very-
illegal entries. We have terrorists coming across our border, and the fentanyl coming across our border has increased. All these things have gotten worse, not better. So whether you say you've perfectly achieved it, you're certainly not moving toward it. You're moving away from it. We all appreciate the boots on the ground who are doing their best to do the job, but I can tell you, I've been down there, they really don't appreciate the job that they're seeing and the leadership that they see coming out of your office right now.
Damn right, man.
One other question I wanted to ask you, how many children have been lost between you and HHS?
Congressman, we do not, I don't know of a single child that we have lost in our responsibility to turn over an unaccompanied child
the question.
to the Department of, excuse me,
to HHS,
to the
yeah.
Department of Health and Human Services within 72 hours, which is our legal requirement.
He just keeps adding more things into it. Well, for my knowledge, we haven't lost a single child since I've been here, and that's been detained with their family, with their shoes on, with blue jeans and a yellow shirt, less than 72 hours, which is our constitutional law. We got to do that. We cannot do that. But as long as they got jeans, shoes, and a yellow shirt, we haven't had a single. Of course, I'm being facetious and I'm joking here, but it's he keeps tacking on all these variables, because the more variables that he's tacking on, then somebody actually passing away is going to keep being basically less likely actually occurring. So this is what he's doing here. It's such a stupid game.
The
I'm not
Biden
aware-
administration
if I
cannot
may,
find
Congressman, I'm not aware of a
42,577
single
children.
child. I'm not aware of a single child that we have lost in executing our responsibility to take a unaccompanied child
Does anybody
in
Right
our
now, the
custody
Biden
and
administration
turn it
cannot
over
find
to the Department of Health and Human Services.
42,577 children.
I'm not sure if I heard that correctly. Originally I thought he said 4,000. That sounded like I swear right now he just said 42,000. Let me know in the chat. Let's go back. I swear he just said 42,000. That's insane.
Over to the
Fined
Department of Health and Human Services.
42,577 children who are going to, quote, sponsors, many of whom are connected to cartels. And it astonished me yesterday that you have never seen these. I personally dug these out of the mud at a gap in the border. It says coming and going in Spanish on it. On it are digital numbers that the cartels use to track people to make sure they're paying their way, both before they get into our country and after they get in our country. I brought these as a gift to you because I have a number of others, and I'll be happy to give these to you. Last year, we were told that we were going to plus up the budget, and because of it, we'd be able to secure our border. We do all these great things, raises for the good men and women, boots on the ground. And I asked this question. I said, the problem is we write the check to secure the border, and the Biden administration gets it, and they say, yay, more money for human trafficking operations. How is that going to change? Yet what we've seen over the last year is the continued operation of the border being even more a sieve, even more aiding and abetting the cartels in their nefarious actions that destabilize Central and South America, Mexico, and make our communities less safe. And so if we are going to address the border funding, we've got to see action, and we've got to see those trends reverse. I apologize.
Which should worry you folks, because if they're not going to see any change, then they might sit there and actually defund the border and not continue to shell out a bunch of money, which, look, there's some agreement there on my end a little bit of, if you're just going to keep handing to the Biden administration, they're not really going to do anything with it, and they're exacerbating the problem, then that money can be spent elsewhere, like going to the school system and paying for armed guards. But, heck, even that's more of a conversation, because that depends on how the school system is actually going to allocate and utilize the money. So who the heck knows, folks? But that's updates on what's going on at the border. Ton of Alejandro Mayorkas just getting his bleep handed to him left and right because he's not doing his job. Well, moving into our next segment of the day, we have far-left Representative Bowman screaming cowards, gutless at Republicans about guns. And if you recall, when we were covering the White House press briefing yesterday, I said, look how she's grandstanding, meaning Karine Jean-Pierre on the podium, and saying all these things about Republicans on how, basically they're cowards, and if they had courage, they would do all this stuff. They would pass comprehensive gun reform laws, whatever the hell that means. They would sit there and make sure they ban all assault weapons and, confiscate your firearms. If they had the courage to do it, they would, and all this stuff, right? And I said, this is how Democrats work. They base everything off of emotions and feelings rather than their head. Okay? Republicans and conservatives use this. Emotions come second or last, because you got to sit there and be logical about this stuff. We got a video clip here, and some of you might have already seen it. I'll get to it in just one moment. But in the wake of the Nashville shooting, you have far-left Representative Jamal Bowman, guess where he's from? Democrat of New York, of course, screamed at Representative Thomas Massie, is it Massie or Massie, from Kentucky, on Wednesday that Republicans were cowards in a rant about gun control, prompting him to calmly respond that just as members of Congress have protection, children in schools need protection too. But that's being proposed by Blackburn, or Black Bum. I can't remember what her name is. I'm fumbling on freaking all the words today as far as their last names go. But Karine Jean-Pierre just sits there and totally negates the thing, which we saw in our first segment today, and says, well, we just need to remove assault weapons. That's actually going to solve the problem. No, it ain't. So Bowman has made numerous statements in the past about defunding police, although he reportedly asked for a special police detail to protect his home in 2021. Let that one sink in the same way that they say that border walls don't work, fences don't work, walls don't work. You get all these Democrats building walls around their homes and around the Capitol. In the same way they want to defund the police and say that more guns kill more people, they're asking police detail with guns to protect their homes and themselves and wanting to defund them. This is how it works with them. So here's the clip. Let me get to it for you and pull it up, folks. It might be a little bit loud, so let me turn down the audio just a wee bit here. We'll fix the audio as it goes on. It's 2 minutes, but just listen to him screaming. This is so reminiscent of how Democrats are a bunch of crybabies and just repeating the same thing, not letting the man speak. So Black Bum's right there. You see him on the screen, and then you'll see the representative of Kentucky come in.
Children at all. Cowards. Pressure them. Force them to respond to the question, why the hell won't you do anything to save America's children? And let them explain that all the way up until Election Day on 2024. Let them explain it all the way up to Election Day on 2024.
So he wants them to explain it. Let's see if he even lets them get a word in to explain it. This is how they work. So when you sit there and you got these crazies going, let them explain it. Let them explain it. You're like, all right, I'll explain it to you, man. No. You need to explain it to me. I'm trying to explain it to you, but you're not letting me talk. Well, you need to explain it to me. They're like all psychos, man.
They're freaking cowards. They're gutless. They're not here. I'm talking about gun violence.
You know, there's never been
I'm
a
talking
school
about gun
shooting
violence.
in a school that allows teachers to carry.
Carry guns? You think
would you
more guns lead to
co-sponsor-
more death?
Would you co-sponsor
More
that?
guns lead to more death. Look at the data. You're not looking at any data. You're carrying the water for the gun lobby. Look at the
This is the same guy that was probably pushing the whole COVID-19 lockdown stuff. Look at the data. It's like, yeah, I have almost 100% chance of surviving. So I'm not going to stay indoors. I want to go back to work. No, you got to look at the data. You're going to die. You're going to die. You got to look at the data. Take the jab. You got to look at the data. Follow the science. Follow the science. Follow the science. He's probably one of those guys.
data. More guns lead to more deaths. Guns, states that have open carry laws have more death.
In every school
States that have open carry laws have more death. Are you listening to what I'm saying? Calm down. Children are dying. 9-year-old children. Because the solution is not arming teachers. Have you ever worked in a school?
If this guy really cared about gun laws and protecting people, he would probably be in the neighborhoods or the district of which he represents to stop crime from happening, because New York has a hell of a lot of crime, but we know he's not going to go down there. 9-year-olds are dying all over the place. Why don't you go look at your own state there, bud? You probably got a lot of crime happening there, enough to keep you busy, but no, you're going to sit there and shout in the halls where the cameras are and, shout all these cowards, right? You blah, blah, blah. Guns, more guns, kill more people.
Have you ever worked in a school? Have you ever worked in a school?
I have.
Have you ever worked in a school? It's a yes or no question. Have you ever worked in a school? You will not answer my question. Don't stop and talk to me. Okay.
I'm a current high school math teacher. I have no qualms having armed guards on campus. I have no qualms having police officers on campus. I have no qualms having teachers carry. I will carry. I know there's some people that will comment on videos. You got to love this one. They go, well, teachers only make like $50,000 a year. Now you expect them to carry a gun? Okay, yeah, I got to carry a gun. And you know what? Maybe the state might pay for firearm training classes for me. That'd be great. Not only would I be benefiting personally for that, but also just as a society as a whole, protecting your children. It's literally a win-win for me. I get to protect myself. Like, well, you can't be strapped with that with kids around. It's like, has anybody ever seen somebody carry a firearm? I mean, you could conceal that bad boy like no other. Furthermore, all you have to do is wear a suit like that guy does. I mean, you have Secret Service having firearms all the time. You don't ever see it. So it's not like you're going to be sitting there waving the thing around, look what I got. You like this? Your parents know about this? You think this is a 45 or a 9mm? Oh, you think it's a 22? You know nothing about guns? You want to hold it? It's loaded. You want to hold it? Like, you're not going to be doing stuff like that. These people are so insane. They don't actually use their brain. I got no problems concealed carry, taking psych evals, going down there in the range, getting my hours in. I got no problems doing that stuff, taking care of making sure your kids are safe and getting a good education at the same time. But this guy, have you ever been in the classroom? You ever been in the classroom? What the hell does that have to do with anything?
I'll bring it down a notch.
All right, folks.
Have you ever worked in the school?
I've got a bill to repeal the
I
federal...
worked in
I'm
the
not
school
talking to you
for
anymore.
20 years.
You're just screaming.
I was a
I had a
teacher. I was
solution.
screaming before you came and interrupted me. I worked.
You interrupted me. You just asked them to let them explain themselves as they're going by. That's literally what the video started with. You just said to let them explain themselves. So the guy shows up to explain himself. Like, well, you interrupted me. You just said to explain yourself, and now you don't want to listen anymore. You just want to shout and grandstand, just like we see from Karine Jean-Pierre and the rest of them at crap parties. So the guy's going to the cameras to explain himself, which you just said to allow them to do. So everyone's like, okay, yeah, let's let him explain himself. Then you interrupt the guy.
I worked in the school for 20 years. I worked in the school 20 years.
In every school,
I was a
that
teacher,
allows
I was a
teachers to
school
carry.
counselor, I was a middle school principal. I was in cafeterias
Every
protecting
school that
kids
allows
every day of
teachers
my
to carry.
career.
Did he just say he was in the cafeterias protecting children? Oh my God. I was a school teacher. I was a middle school teacher. I was a principal, and I was in the cafeterias protecting the children.
Never been a shooting.
Clown,
Never
you
been
can't
a
even answer
shooting.
no question.
It's time.
Ask them.
Look, we've got
Why
guns
won't they
here to
pass
protect us.
legislation? Why? Ask them.
Correct.
I believe the
Ask
kids
them
should
right
have
now.
somebody
Make
to
them
protect them. Every school that's allowed it has never had a shooting. Not even an accidental discharge at any of the schools. So.
That's a really great point that it actually brings up, because if you look at a lot of just the shootings that take place, the data is kind of skewed on it, where a lot of the shootings take place in like a school parking lot. So when you look at school firearms or shootings that take place on campus, majority of those will take place actually in the parking lot or some other area of which they'll quantify as being on campus when nobody's even really around. So you have to really read these studies, you guys, or else somebody will really pull your leg on this stuff and make it seem like what they're saying is true, because in part it is, but it's kind of misleading and misconstruing what's actually happening there. And we see that from Democrats all the time. We've talked about it at length. For those that are familiar, I teach statistics. I'm not saying I know everything about statistics, but I will say that what they tend to do is obviously manipulate it and construe it in a way that fits their narrative and pushes the narrative. And a lot of times we see them utilizing outliers and represent that outlier as if it's a data set as a whole. So in the same way, you had Karine Jean-Pierre, prime example, like 24 hours ago, saying, oh, well, children's death, the number one of children's death is firearms. And we said, well, technically that is true, because from ages 1 to 19, so they include 18 and 19-year-olds in that, you're going to have construed data. Furthermore, they don't implement a lot of the deaths from infants and what the cause of death of infants as either. And once you include that, your denominator of the whole is going to sit there and mess with the sample space and the proportion just in general of the study alone. So that messes with everything that's happening and it construes the data. So if you made it out of 1 to 17-year-olds, that'd be more realistic. And that's actually, then you get closer to car accidents than you do actually gun-related deaths. So that's for a whole nother video. If you guys want to break down that study, guess where you can go? Boom, right here, where we actually talk about defunding the police shootings, the narrative that the Democrats are saying where unarmed black men are being hunted down in the streets. I actually break down the stats for you in here. I went back for like 60 or 80 years. I can't even remember now. I went back and actually correlated all the data for you in this book. That chapter alone, I think, is honestly worth the buy. I think that chapter of defunding the police, the fake news media that we cover in here, and probably the abortion chapter, I think is honestly just worth the money as it is. Everything else that surrounds it is freaking great as well. This is a phenomenal read. If you buy it, folks, on Amazon, please leave us a 5-star review. It really does help support the show, and it bumps us up in the ratings exponentially. Like I mentioned, we were ranked like 1,000 out of all political books. One person added in their 5-star review, and we bumped up to 500. So if we get a couple more people, we're going to be like the top 10 or top 20 political books in all of Amazon. And Amazon has millions of books, so you guys actually taking the time to do it is benefiting the show greatly and benefiting me, a fellow conservative that, did a bucket list item, wrote a book, but it also could change the minds of some independents and Democrats maybe. Well, moving into our last story of the day, we got protesters storming Tennessee Capitol building, demanding gun control. So I wonder if this is going to be just as big news as January 6th was, because now you got a group of 400 people rushing into the Tennessee State Capitol building in Nashville on Thursday morning to protest for stricter gun laws following the mass shooting at the Covenant School earlier this week. So it's okay for them to storm the Capitol of a Tennessee, of a state, but when you storm the Capitol of a federal building, all of a sudden, you got to sit there and push a whole agenda, open up investigations, create a committee, lie to the American public for literally years, not watch the whole 40,000 hours of footage of which Tucker Carlson got his hands on. Then all of a sudden, the narrative switches and changes. You have the January 6th committee coming out and saying, oh, well, we didn't actually watch all the footage. We had low level staffers do that. They didn't really even tell us anything. We just had the narrative and we went along with it. So it's just watch how the media doesn't cover this at all. So around 500 protesters gathered around 8 a.m. local time in Tennessee before a large group of them moved literally into the Capitol, carrying signs and shouting, no action, no peace. And what do you want? Gun control. What do you want it now? It's always the same chant. Like, can they not get creative here? So there was footage from inside the Capitol that showed at least 6 Tennessee state troopers holding back a crowd of angry protesters as they attempt to reach lawmakers. So as always, folks, we got to play this stuff together. Just give it a moment here. We're running a little bit slow today, but, nonetheless, we will still have it all set up for you. It is kind of loud, folks. A lot of shouting. That's typical of hearing from the Democrats. Let's go ahead and roll it.
No peace! No action! 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 No peace!
All right, it's kind of dying out a little bit because they got tired, right? They're all out of shape. They don't know what the hell's going on. They're just there, probably getting paid by Soros or somebody. So emotions outside the House chambers are still high with those people going in. It was a Tennessee nonprofit called Awake that planned the protest, and the group seeks to improve conditions for women and children, according to the New York Post. So some of these people are literally basically teenagers or college age. Maybe they should spend more time studying than they should be going and sitting there running into the Capitol of a state building. And by the way, I wasn't for the January 6th thing either. I don't think there was an insurrection. I think that's a little bit silly. Oh, they're taking over the government. They're taking us over. Really? I mean, you could say the same thing here. They're taking over the Tennessee Capitol. They're taking over the state. They're running it over. They're going to take hold of it. Bunch of idiots, man. I'm telling you, people are so insane nowadays. Quote, we have collaborated with community organizations and individual citizens to organize a rally at the state capitol Thursday morning. If you are looking for a way to channel your grief, anger, and confusion into action, please join us. We see this all the time, right? They're so confused. They're pent up with emotions, so they got to take to the streets. Thankfully, they didn't burn down any buildings like we saw from Black Lives Matter and Antifa for literally years under the Trump administration, where everything was somehow racist. You see how that works? Everything's racist somehow when a Republican's in office, but when you got somebody that literally the vice president called a racist during the presidential campaign, all of a sudden there's no storming to the streets anymore. All of a sudden there's no police brutality. All of a sudden there's none of this stuff. It's amazing how all that works out, right? But none of this is planned, right? There's not actual operatives in those crowds and incentivizing the violence like we saw on January 6th. None of that's happening, you guys. I have to be so careful with my words on here. I am of strong belief, and you know what? Let's take a moment here because I actually want your guys' take on this. I was going to write this in the live chat yesterday, but I don't want to lower the mood. Hand to God, and I really do. Everybody that watches the show, usually there's almost 50 of us that watch the show live together every morning. Do you guys think we're being shadow banned? Hand to God. I have over 32,000 subs, right? I would say about every hour we see probably anywhere about 25 to 35 views an hour. Our videos, we'll see most videos, there's some videos that have been up for like a week that get like 60 to 80 views. I have 32,000 subscribers. I didn't pay for any of them. I'm not one of those. Those are all legit subscribers that saw the show, saw some videos, and actually subbed. Either the videos suck, which might be the case. You're not going to hurt my feelings of saying, hey, Brad, you got to upgrade this. You got to put some more effort in. If you have any constructive criticism, obviously write in so we can make the show better. But I've heard from a lot of people that really enjoy the show and they can't believe that we have a certain amount of views. And I've talked to YouTube. They say, oh, nothing's happening. Nothing weird's happening. Although you guys are writing in saying, hey, you know, there's comments being deleted. My bell notifications turning off and on its own. All these things are happening. And I actually sent them the list of your names and they said they would contact you guys, of which I've heard they haven't contacted anybody. I think I'm being shadow banned. What do you guys think? I don't know what to do about it. It is extremely hard to grow the show. And I'm almost going to probably call Rumble and see if I could break a deal with them just to move over to Rumble maybe at some point, because this is insane, you guys. I mean, it's amazing how our viewership just plateaus. Anybody know stats? That's not realistic that you're going to have a uniform distribution like that of literally 30 to 35 views every hour, which makes me believe that literally they sat there and throttled it so that it only gets 30 to 35 views an hour. Very weird. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Oh boy, am I going to read those ones. One protester, a high school teacher from New Jersey named Jack, oh, hi, Jack, told the Daily Wire that his father is a teacher at the Covenant School, the school that had the children and other staff members pass away or murdered. Jack joined the protest to call for more gun control and said the lawmakers would have blood on their hands if they don't take action on gun control legislation. See, if you don't agree with them, you're going to have blood on your hands. If you don't think that you should have your firearms taken away or taken away from your fellow countrymen, you should have blood on your hands and you should be guilty. You know what, matter of fact, you should be tried for murder. That's how insane these people are. You should be sitting there on the stand being tried for murder because you're complicit in this behavior of these mass shooters going into these schools and shooting everybody up. You're complicit in it. Why? Because you don't want to sit there and have your guns confiscated. You don't want to sit there and remove the Second Amendment. So you should be tried as a murder. That's basically where they're going here with all this stuff. Tennessee Democrats advertised for the event in days and hours leading up to it, encouraging people to attend and raise their voice at the Capitol to advocate for an end to gun violence and stronger gun laws in Tennessee. Just because you have stronger gun laws does not mean criminals are going to stop doing what they're doing. And they can't wrap their head around it because they don't know how to critically think. That's why the IQ has gone down for the first time in 100 years. We got a bunch of people showing up on all these events that don't have a damn clue on how to use this up here. And so when they show up, just start chanting stuff. No, peace, no, peace. They don't have a damn clue what they're talking about. I could probably show them a basic bell curve and they would have no idea what they're looking at. And again, I'm not saying I'm smart. I'm not trying to sit there and say I'm above everybody else. I think I'm an idiot personally, but that's why, folks, it's called the Bald Brad Show for a reason, right? I mean, yeah, I am bald, but it's also a show that's not like the Brad Roberts Show or the True American Patriot Show. it's supposed to be loose. Of course, we sit here and we yell and we scream and we get all animated, right? But also, it's not supposed to be taken too seriously. It's called the Bald Brad Show. I mean, how serious could it be? But at the same time, you're dealing with a bunch of knuckleheads running the streets called Democrats. How can I take them serious when they're saying silly stuff? Silly stuff. So it's insane. They're storming the Capitol. We'll see if anything's made of this from the Democrat Party, right? So now we have ammo ourselves. Well, you guys are sitting there insurrectionists. You're insurrectionists too. Now you're insurrectionists. Perfect. Now we got ammo. Everybody remember Tennessee Capitol, March 30th, insurrection. So there we go. They can't sit there and use it against us anymore. They did the exact same thing we did. We just did it on a grander scale. As Republicans do everything on a grander scale, so we do everything better. So, if you haven't already, folks, it is Friday. Pick up a copy. Really, this is honestly, I wouldn't keep pushing it. You guys, I'm not gonna make money on this. Put it that way. Okay, I'm telling you to buy it because I think you'd really enjoy it. I wrote a book that I would want to read. There's only way I'll be able to write a book. So the book sits there and breaks down everything from leftist organizations like BLM, Black Lives Matter, Antifa. I take you through fascism and how fascism formed out of the umbrella of socialism with Mussolini and Italy. And I go through the black shirts and how Antifa basically are fascists themselves, masquerading as anti-fascists. I mean, it is dense. It is a good read. Like I said, we go over defunding the police, the fake news media. We go over a lot of stuff in that book, folks. It is a great read. I'm hyping up for a reason, and hopefully you all enjoy it. I got a couple emails from you saying that you bought the book. You've enjoyed it so far. Some of you left Amazon reviews already. Head over there, buy a copy, hit the join tab, folks. Join us, become a member, get those badges, join us in the live chat, hang out with all of us. We have a blast every morning, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I gotta think about that for one moment. And with that being said, hopefully we have a Supernatural Saturday episode tomorrow. If not, we'll be back here Sunday, but we got to wrap up that Supernatural Saturday episode of the Joe Rogan and Bob Lazar episode. We got to do a part 4, I think it is. We got to wrap it up tomorrow. So hopefully I can get that done for you. We'll hang out a little bit and then we'll be back on Sunday. So as always, hit that like and subscribe button. Leave us a comment down below. And folks, I'll see you tomorrow here on The Bob Brad Show.